all, thank you BNCA for giving me a second chance. And I think lot of appreciation for Swati, Piyush and the entire team for, bringing all this together. Thank you so much. I know the title itself is controversial, so we'll talk about it later on. Let me first, convey the intent. So, with ever-expanding cities engulfing and taking over the natural landscape, built environment along with designed, constructed landscapes increasing in prominence, today the landscapes we design and manage play increasingly important role in ecological functioning of our cities. And this obviously demands a design approach that is based on ecological perspective. So it is very important to have clarity as to what ecological landscape design is, or what is the design based on ecological perspective. And till date, what I have understood of ecological landscape design is it is the design based on clues from the natural landscape, but does not necessarily aim to recreate nature as it was before. It is the design that celebrates the region, design that combines our goals and the natural processes, that helps sustain life within its boundaries and even beyond. It's a living system with a pattern that adjusts and adapts with time. So with this background, I would like to quickly take you through the process we followed in a project, a small step towards ecological landscape design. It's a corporate campus in Pune, spread over 25 acres, with 13 acres currently under development. The site is at the foothill of a steeply sloping hill covered with lot of vegetation, mixed vegetation, dominated by teak. The gullies, but it's not monoculture, it's a mixed vegetation. The gullies carrying the storm water from the hill passes through the site. Average gradient of the site is about 1 in 9. Except for a few trees, there was very little vegetation on site by the time we started working on the project, because a lot of area was already regraded. At the lower end, there is an abundant quarry, approximately 6 meters deep and 1200 square meters in area. So our proposal is based on 3 key ideas or principles: flow, continuity and change. Flow of water, nutrients, energy, birds, butterflies, animals, including people. Continuity of the landscape beyond, because we found the landscape beyond the hill landscape very, very interesting. And change, seasonal, and with time functional and also spatial. And to achieve this, we focused mainly on 3 aspects. The first was the spatial pattern. So since spatial pattern strongly controls all these 3 aspects, that is flow, continuity and change, changes were proposed in the master plan for vehicular movement and also the grades, resulting in a continuous valley flanked on either side by undulations that connect the built form with the land, a depression towards the lower end, that is I suppose southern end, and a few pocket gardens as outdoor building extensions. No soil or murum was borrowed from out of the site for any of this activity. The bottom of the valley is designed as a bioswale to carry, filter and recharge water, terminating in a water garden that overflows in the quarry. Capacity of the quarry is increased by raising the sides. Undulations are visualized as forests of local vegetation, environmentally beneficial vegetation, here I am correcting myself, whereas pocket gardens are manicured exotic extensions of the built form, and that are very much restricted in the area. The curvilinear forms help in many ways. We thought curvilinear forms probably would help us in achieving what we wanted to achieve. We thought that they'll help us in creating diverse microhabitats, they'll help us in increasing travel time of the water because the gradient is substantial, and they also will help us in increasing the surface area for plantation. Transitions and ages, this was the second aspect we focused on. Transition and ages, we feel they also play an important role in creating corridors as well as microhabitats. So as I showed you in the earlier slide, we worked a lot on how one type of, one landscape component merges, or how one component, landscape component kind of connects with other landscape component. The third important aspect of this exercise was planting design. And the basic principle was try and get the right plant at the right place. It was a conscious decision not to create generically ideal conditions for planting of major areas by borrowing soil from outside the site. So existing murum, which came out of the construction, and there were some areas of black cotton which were which were getting constructed eventually. So the black cotton from those areas with no inorganic additives is used as a planting media for all areas except for the pocket gardens. Various planting typologies and sub-typologies were identified. For example, foothill, forest area. Within forest area, again, what would go on the edge, south-facing slopes with least backfill, east-facing slopes with substantial amount of backfill. Similarly, swells and pond, the bottom of the pond or bottom of the swell, the edges depending upon their moisture content. So, and shortlisting of plants was done with the help of oikos, team oikos. Plants were ordered at least 9 to 10 months in advance, because getting some of these species in large quantities was a big challenge. This was done before even the planting plans were made. And shortlisted plans were, so we were helped by oikos team with the shortlist of plants, but as we had very little knowledge of most of this vegetation, we had to do a lot of studies to understand their visual qualities, seasonal changes, growth rate, because we wanted to look at the whole thing not only as a mixture of species, but compositions which are also aesthetically appealing. So the first component was the foothill. So this has been looked at as a continuity of the hill landscape beyond. Species that are dominant on the hill are used to create planting structure with random mixing of other beneficial species. These slides show some of the species that we selected for plantation. The second was all important locations were marked for planting of very large, some of which eventually would be key species. For this, again, different species were chosen. Then the forest is a carefully planned mix of diverse species in 3 stories. Plantation is fairly dense. Large part of the forest floor is left open to develop on its own. So these are some of the species that we chose for planting in the forest patches. Pond or water garden planting is approximately is a proportionate mix of submerged, emergent and floating plants, and the selection of the plant varies as per the water depth. Same is applicable to the bioswale. So bioswale planting is also based on expected moisture and water level in the section. While designing, the challenge was to understand not only the environmental compatibility but also the aesthetic compatibility of various plants, as they are rarely seen in designed environments. So this is for the pond. So the attempt here is to create a community of diverse species as against conventional mass of single species. As a management policy, it is decided to reduce the irrigation water over next 4 to 5 years considerably, also hoping that being local and diverse, planting should withstand better to pests and pathogens, hence chemical pest control is strictly prohibited. Apart from invasives, no other new growth is to be removed from the planted areas. And as time passes, we expect the landscape to mature as a living system and hopefully a new pattern will emerge. Thank you.